why now? Like, given leaderboards is coming out at a time when there's certain things not in place, like ranked PvP for OPR and arenas,
Right.
things like that. So why now? Hey everybody, welcome to Forged and Eternum, where we talk all things New World. My name is Dan Henuber. I'm the lead of the social team. With me are Rachel Barnum, game designer on social team and owner of the Leaderboards feature, and Scott Geiser, lead engineer on the social team, who worked really hard on Leaderboards. And we're just getting together one kind of check-in point before Leaderboards launching pretty soon. It's done with PTR. We've received a lot of really helpful community feedback. Just kind of wanted to chat about it and set it up. And we work on a lot of things on the social team. We were chatting earlier, like something we just shipped was shell company. We made some changes to try to mitigate shell companies.
Yeah.
What do you think?
We've gotten a lot of really good feedback on that in terms of people are seeing the results in World, and it's been really exciting. So
Yeah, go ahead.
And like, what were the results we were looking for, and how does that compare to like what's actually happening in game?
So the results we were looking for were less shell companies. I know that's,
Right. But why?
But why? Well, I mean, it was really messing up the territory control game. It made it feel unfair, and that wasn't how we intended the territory control game to be played. You didn't need to have, 5 baby companies to take over the world.
Right.
We wanted you with your friends and to take over, a territory or two, and then other companies could come in and also own territories and not feel cheated out of it.
Yeah, it's been out since December. I mean, I think we have heard some feedback that we want to try to address.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
One of them being where we know, like, obviously now that there's no shells to spill over into, we're really feeling the guild size limit of 100. So that's one of the things we're going to be looking into raising.
Yeah, we need to sort of look at the technical issues around that. With more players in a single guild, that's more updates that need to go out to different players and more data we need to store kind of simultaneously. So we just want to make sure that that's not going to have a negative impact on our game, or if it is, we need to build something to mitigate that.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're here to talk about leaderboards.
We sure are.
Yeah.
So it's about to ship.
Yeah.
What are leaderboards?
Leaderboards are leaderboards. How do you define a word that it is perfectly described in the word itself? It's a board of leaders. But yeah, we have leaderboards that it'll be in the mode section of the game, and you pull them up, and we have rankings of all sorts of different game modes, all different activities in the game. We have mutations, our expeditions, top clear times, top scores, and it's just showing off how awesome our players are.
On the tech side, what was it like building these things?
Building the leaderboard system is actually really cool. We've been working on it for a long time. We've been partnering with another Amazon team called Omni that builds a lot of sort of like core gameplay services. So they built sort of a stat tracker system and a leaderboard system that those stats feed into. And on our team, on the social team, we designed them obviously, but then we built the mechanisms by which the different events happening in game triggered those stats to get sent out to Omni, so that they'll show up on the leaderboard, and we can track that stuff. And that's huge for us because in the past it's been very difficult for us to store that much data about all sorts of random things, all in sort of like one big blob on a player. And so we're sort of like running against...
That's a technical term, right?
It is,
yeah. No, blob is the technical term.
Is it actually?
But the benefit here is now we're sort of distributing where we're storing that data, and so we're only loading the data that we need at the time. The player characters don't need to be aware of their stat values constantly, only sort of like when they're looking at the leaderboards themselves. It's really cool. It builds us a good foundation to move leaderboards into all sorts of other parts of the game to help, enrich like the content that we're going to be pushing out.
I remember testing this thing was interesting.
Yeah. Testing was fun. There was a lot of testing overall. I think that, we forget how, leaderboards, like we were saying, are all encompassing. There's, like I said, there's expeditions, there's the faction war, there's PvE, there's PvP on it. And so not only are we just testing, do the leaderboards work, we're testing those game modes over and over and over again. So it was a lot. And then it was also kind of fun to revisit some of our old game modes, or like we had fun, I think one of the PTRs, just to make sure it was good, we were all just standing outside of town killing each other. You did a really good job, by the way.
I don't think I killed you at all. But yeah, and then sort of along the testing lines, we've actually had the code live on Real Worlds for a couple weeks now, where we sort of like, we're slowly turning things on, making sure there's no scale issues. And the stats that are being generated right now help inform, are we putting the right priority and emphasis on this leaderboard versus that leaderboard? What things are potentially like easier to cheat around or exploit, like where it wouldn't really make sense to make that be a very like weighty, rewarding leaderboard, but more just for fun and stats and things like that. And just sort of making sure that like everything's running through the pipe smoothly. Helped us discover a couple issues that we were able to fix, before it's player impacting, which is good. So, we've done a lot of testing with this feature, and I think it'll show.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's also been live on PTR a couple times now. And, I think one of the questions that we've got was, like, in addition to like some other feedback that I think we actioned on a couple of things, like tweaks here and there. There was an achievements issue.
Yeah. So some of the feedback that we've already addressed, we got feedback pretty quickly that, leaderboard achievements obviously don't feel that achievable, because getting on the leaderboards is meant to almost feel unachievable in a way, like getting your top 10, top 50. And so we did remove those achievements, but we still kept things like titles and skins and other rewards for some of our leaderboards.
Yeah, they were in there because, the achievements is kind of like tech-wise, it's kind of like how they're activated on the back end, right?
Yeah, that was the mechanism that we're using to pass the rewards on to players, because the achievement system sort of already unlocks entitlements and titles and different rewards like that. So we were able to reuse some of that functionality for this purpose.
I think another one that we kind of want to talk about briefly was just the question of like, why now? Like, given leaderboards is coming out at a time when there's certain things not in place, like ranked PvP for OPR and arenas,
right?
Things like that. So why now?
Yeah, like I said, we don't have ranked PvP yet, but we have all this other awesome content in the game that we want to celebrate. We have mutations that are effectively already a ranked mode with our mutation levels. And so we're really excited to celebrate players for the scores and clear times for those. We have Faction War. Like, Faction War is such a huge section in that. And not only is that such a fun one to reward and celebrate, that sets the foundation for us for future Faction War updates and content. And then for other PvE modes, we have invasions and darkness portal breaches, corruption breaches. Someone's corruption breaches. We also have corruption breaches and trials and other fun content that we reward in there as well. So, why not now? We have so much awesome content in the game to celebrate.
We did make some changes too on the PvP boards too, right?
Yeah, we definitely heard the feedback. I personally had a lot of fun watching streamers really cheese OPR score for PTR. That was great. But with that said, we did acknowledge that wasn't good behavior, that is detrimental to that game mode. And so while we want to still include those stats, OPR, War, our PvP game modes in there for fun, like that is still a celebratory stat to have, we did move around some of the rewards. So we completely removed War rewards entirely. Entirely. And then for OPR, we've moved the rewards to wins rather than the score. That way you're focused on winning. You're not focused on just getting your own personal score up.
Yeah, we definitely think of this as a V1 to grow upon.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially as we start to get in more things like cross-world tech and various other things that we're not ready to talk about yet, but we are working on and are exciting.
Yeah, and tech-wise, like it's a foundation now that we can easily extend. So like as we see other opportunities and things, like we can add new leaderboards, we can add new stats. We could potentially play with like the time ranges for right now. We have week, month. We could adjust different things, maybe time to times of the year or something like that. But it's just a new kind of celebration and reward mechanism that really could potentially get added to any piece of content or feature.
And that brings us to the community question of the week. What's the goofiest stat you can possibly think of?
I think that we should be tracking number of times you've killed a bison while falling off of a cliff.
I want to name all of our goats, like goats and rams in the world, and give them a leaderboard of how many kicks they get off on people.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right?
You just want that because we're already number one from our photo shoot for leaderboards.
But it's so good.
What do you got? Put it down below in the comments and be sure to like and subscribe.
Let's go. We need more land.
I'm talking to him about moving mountains here.
How about building mountains?
I can't get him to
we
shut
need
up.
more land already. Come on.